Thank you very much for joining me in this video. I want to talk to you today about a new incentive that's being rolled out by the City of St. Catharines. You're probably all familiar by now with the accessory dwelling program that's been in existence that encouraged second and third units in individual homes. And this was for strictly creating up to a triplex, whether the unit was inside or a combination of inside and outside or strictly outside additions. And there were grants available. The grant was up to $40,000 for a unit that was going to be an interior unit and up to $80,000 for a unit that was going to be exterior. And I think by and large that program was pretty much of a success. The bad news is it's out of funds, so it's finished. But through the program, it was funded by the feds and it was operated with the municipalities, and City of St. Catharines, they ended up funding 80 new projects. So that means there's 80 new residential dwelling units either created or being created in the City of St. Catharines that weren't there before. Well, that program, as I said, is finished. They may roll it out again next spring if more funding is available. It wasn't a bad program, and there was a lot of interest in it. But there's a new program that's just being rolled out now. It's called the Downtown Forgivable Loan Program, DFLP, Downtown Forgivable Loan Program. It's brand new. It's aimed at the downtown or the core area, if you like, and it's aimed, unlike the accessory dwelling one, it's aimed at mixed-use buildings. In other words, it doesn't apply to specifically residential buildings. It applies to commercial buildings that will ultimately have a residential component within them. I think if you drive down St. Paul Street and you can look at all these storefronts, and most of them are two-story or two- and three-story, and up above, ideal for apartments. Some of them have apartments, but a lot of them it might be storage area, it might be just vacant space, and the city is saying what a great opportunity to add additional residential dwellings. And so it's specifically aimed at mixed-use buildings, and the idea is to create new residential dwellings. Now, I should say this program is brand new. It was just passed by the city on August the 11th. It's subject to a 20-day appeal period, and so assuming there won't be any appeals, and I don't know why there would be, it will be implemented beginning September the 4th. The city hasn't completed the application forms yet. They're working on them. Let me talk to you first of all about the affected area. We're talking about the core area, and I'll put up on the screen a map to show you. It is the land south of Welland Avenue and north of 12 Mile Creek, and sort of from Ontario Street down to Niagara Street. It includes, St. Paul Street, King Street, Queen Street, Geneva Street, part of Niagara Street, and so on. There's a fairly large component of buildings in there that have commercial with residential potential inside it. The basics of the funding is up to $50,000 for one unit or up to $100,000 for more than one unit. In other words, you can do more than two, you can do three or four, but it won't be above $100,000, except that if it's a barrier-free unit, there's a possibility of an additional $50,000. The program is set up so that you will get 70% of the eligible project costs. It's an interest-free forgivable loan. What it is runs for 5 years, and each year they forgive 20% of the loan. So as long as you are adhering to all the requirements to the Downtown Forgivable Loan Program, you will continue to get that loan erased until 5 years it's completely gone. And while it's in place, it's interest-free. You'll get half the loan when you get approval for the project. You'll get the other half of the loan upon occupancy permits being issued. Now, there are some limitations. Well, first of all, as a landlord, you got to be a good corporate citizen. Your taxes have to be paid and up to date. You can't have any work orders against the property. The units must be new. It isn't just refreshing existing units. As I said before, it's got to be in a mixed-use building, and it's got to comply with the city's zoning bylaws, got to comply with Ontario building codes, got to comply with Ontario fire codes. Now, as is the same with ancillary dwellings, there are costs that are eligible and there are costs that are not eligible. Costs that are are not eligible, or soft costs and so on, but eligible costs are fire separations. If you're going to add a residential unit to an existing commercial unit, the units have to be separated by fire separation and alarms and so on. And those are all allowable costs, as is heating and ventilation and lighting and windows and doors, entrances, new kitchens, new bathrooms, sleeping area. And if you have to change the height of the ceiling to comply with the regulation, those costs are covered as well. One other thing is that there's a deadline that when you put in your application and when it's approved, from the time it's approved, the project has to be completed within 18 months. They'll be filling in more details as time goes along. But if you own a building downtown, or you're representing a client who owns a building downtown, you're well worth looking into it. Contact City Hall for more details. Hope that makes sense. I want to thank you for watching this video. Talk to you again next week.